Hey everyone, we're back with another episode of It Starts With Plastic Free. Phil and Corey here today. We've got a bit of show and tell. Today we are talking about flushable products, and this topic comes up constantly. There was a blog not long ago, Corey,
there was
on
a
our
great
website.
blog that you wrote.
Thank you. And it's a passionate one because we've been talking to so many authorities around the country on this. And you've got some interesting data because I want to show the audience later about what we have in terms of what does flush and what doesn't flush. But I think there's a conversation here to be had in terms of where the future might lie in this space in waste reduction.
Yeah.
So
sure.
what do you got?
Well, I just wanted to start with why are we scared of flushables in Australia? So, there's a fear from some history around some negative experiences in the market, particularly I think in New South Wales.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of that.
So we're scared firstly because we're fearful of blocking our drains at home. At an industrial or commercial level, government level, we're scared of fatbergs, namely. So a fatberg is this, we'll put a few shots up on the screen and they're absolutely disgusting, but they're a congealed mass of fats and grease that collect around mostly wet wipes.
Yeah, but I mean, I did share with you that article about some of the myths about what blocks drains.
Yes.
And yeah, wipes are a big culprit, but nappies are in there.
Correct.
Female sanitary, paper towels. So it's not just wipes, but yeah, I get it. They're things that shouldn't be flushed are getting flushed.
So a couple of stats. Sydney Water, up to 75% of blockages in Sydney Water drains involve wipes, and they spend upwards of $8 million a year removing 500 tonnes of wet wipes.
Wow.
Yeah, that's just in Sydney Water. The UK, 93% of blockages in the UK are related to wet wipes. Quite amazing.
Yeah, they're big numbers.
Yeah, 30 tonnes from one sewage station. There's some sewage stations there. They collect 30 tonnes of these products, including nappies and the likes, each day. Absolutely ridiculous.
Well,
each year, water companies are spending roughly £100 million to clear over 300,000 blockages. So I think that's where
huge cost.
Fear of the old term, wet wipes being flushed comes from.
And it sort of hit home for me when we were last in Sydney, and I remember driving, one of the billboards had Kenny the plumber advertising. We haven't seen him down here, but as you said, big in New South Wales, which, telling people don't flush specifically wipes down the drain. However, the thing for me is those stats are huge, but what a lot of people aren't aware of is that Australia brought out a standard this year in May.
Yep.
Now we got hold of it last year. When was it?
May 2022.
May 2022. Sorry, yeah. And when it was circulated in 21 as a draft, we looked at that, and they had adopted the Adana standard. And Adana is the European standard on flushable. There's GD4 is what they term the guidelines. Quite stringent. However, Australia's gone a step further, and some of the testing that's required is even more stringent.
Yes.
But when I look at those numbers, there are now processes in the UK, those countries you mentioned there, and in Europe where there's this flushable standard and things are flushable. And the US has got it as well.
Yes.
And quite stringent from what I understand in the US. Now, this problem of blocked drains from wipes is not local, it's global.
Correct.
Asia's the same.
Yeah.
But when I started to understand what happens when things do get flushed and where they end up, we had that meeting with WASA and SA Water, and we were talking about all those opportunities. And then I think you asked the question, what happens to stuff that gets flushed? And they said that sort of at the end point, it could end up in compost.
Yes.
It's gone through all the filters, etc.
Yeah.
I started thinking about all the areas of the market where we're using wipes and what we think we're doing the right thing, and we've been part of this journey. And I'll use baby wipes as an example. Okay, so there's about 2 billion nappies sold a year in Australia across the country. Now, if we guess that on a real conservative level, 4 wipes per nappy, that's more than 6 billion baby wipes.
6-8 billion. Yeah.
Now, 6 to 8 billion, yeah, my math's not right there. Okay, 6 to 8 billion, 3 to 4.
That was a soft correction.
2 times 3, okay. However, the thing is, when we talk about biodegradable and compostable wipes, so the market's gone towards the green, which is great. We're getting rid of microplastics. However, you can't put a human feces on a wipe in a green bin.
Yes.
So it ends up in landfill.
Yep.
So basically, a plastic baby wipe and a bamboo or a viscose compostable baby wipe still end up in the net result is they end up in landfill.
Yeah.
Whereas, if it's a wipe that's wiped down a surface, it might better go into a green bin, but it can't if it's got human feces in it. So then I started thinking, okay, where's the opportunity with this? You mentioned you started off, why are we so scared of flushable? But are we missing an opportunity here? And should we be looking at what the European countries are doing in many ways, and even North America?
Yes.
Australia's got this new standard for a reason. If you meet it, then it's a good thing.
It's flushable. Yeah.
So,
and when I talk about those stats, that's not related to Australian approved wet wipes. That's related to what we're talking about now. Is there was no clear clarification around what is a flushable wet wipe, and we're talking about flushing plastic and even compostable wet wipes, but they're not approved flushable.
So, Corey, I thought what we might do today, a bit of show and tell, but we get a generic plastic wipe which has been out in the market for decades.
Yep.
One of our biodegradable compostable wipes,
yes,
some toilet paper and a flushable wipe,
yep,
and see how they all behave, which is reflective of what happens when it should disperse down the drain. Now, for those of you out there, you go for it, mate. You got those biceps, want to work out you're done. Go.
Let's get one of these.
Yeah, one wipe per product. So that's your general surface disinfectant antibacterial wipe, and that's polyester based. Okay,
made of plastic.
So give it a really good shake.
You can shake this all you want, and it's not going to break down.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, if I let that go, that's going to sit there as a wipe just floating.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, a lot of people think that you can get a biodegradable wipe or a compostable wipe, and it behaves differently when I flush it. Now, just because it's got no plastic. So this is a compostable viscose wipe that could go in a green bin, but quite strong still, okay? And so it's got its integral strength. Put that in there. So if I shake that up, okay, the net result is pretty much the same. Once that settles, the fabric is still there. I mean, different solution inside of it, but at the end of the day, that isn't going to break down under dispersion in a toilet drain.
Yeah, and that's this is the highlighted point. This one here, exactly. Yeah. Biodegradable, compostable, bamboo, plant-based does not mean it is a flushable wipe.
So don't flush what you think, even though it says it's biodegradable. It doesn't mean it can be flushed. Okay. Now, toilet paper, as we know, you can see now that's broken up into particles and it's not floating like that. Okay? And I get a flushable wipe that meets the standard. Okay? One wipe, which is probably the same size as those two pieces of toilet paper. So there's a difference between the clear product and these. Now, if I was to undo the screw caps of these, that would block that hole, that would block it.
Yep.
This would all come out, and so would this. Now, after 1 minute, as things are settling, you can start to see now of how these break up. Now, toilet paper, no doubt, breaks up the easiest.
Yep.
Lighter, etc.
Yes.
But as we've seen in the European standards and now in Australia here, there are products that break up, that are flushable, and we've got a product. There are other companies out there that are importing it and meet that standard. But this is where we need to start thinking about where the opportunity is to cut waste in landfill on things that actually could end up, and things that are genuinely flushable could be really a green path towards the path of where we need to go, and not so brown.
Well, let's go back to the baby wipes example. That alone, if we say 6 to 8 million wipes a year based on 6 to 8 billion wipes a year based on 2 billion wipes, nappy estimate,
Yeah, I'm listening to you. Keep going. I'm intrigued. Yeah, because this is what happens.
Exactly.
Right? This is
that's all currently
People push
going to
this down the
landfill, and here is a solution that potentially we're not going to change consumer behaviour from using baby wipes. In any great percent of the market, there are some reusable options out there, but the reality is we're not going to change consumer behaviour.
But what about
anytime
small
soon.
sort of face wipes, female
that
cosmetic
as well.
wipes and all those sorts of things? It goes into a bin, which ends up in the rubbish and into landfill. Is that an opportunity out there?
But we're talking huge numbers here that could go down the toilet, disperse, be any particles that are collected, composted after our taps with SA water. Seems like a much better solution to me, that's for sure.
Yeah, look, every time I look at this, it intrigues me how we've just missed the opportunity. And like you said at the start, why aren't we wanting to flush things? Are we thinking that we're going to be outed? But if there are things that can be flushed, I think that we need to really find where the authorities, I think there's 80 water authorities in the country that could get behind this, and whether they even do trials or public toilet systems. Homeless people, all those sorts of things. What's happening there? There's a multitude of opportunities here that we need to explore, and this is one that we could definitely look at in more detail. So if anyone's got questions on Flushable and wanting to know more, we'd be really intrigued to take this on further. We're looking to try and get someone from a water authority out in one of the programs later on to explain what happens to the drain systems, and maybe even a master plumber who's had lots of experience in this area of what they do see and what happens. But I think that this is now a time where in Australia we need to, like any technology advances, we need to explore where the opportunities are to take this a little bit further, and how we could look at, undoubtedly, that's your plastic wipe, that's your biodegradable wipe, that's our toilet paper, and that's your Flushable. It's fairly obvious where the differences lie. Maybe the answer is looking down the toilet.
Thanks, Kenny.
Until the next episode of It Starts with Plastic Free, we'll see you then. Don't forget to subscribe.